So this is 1970. 9 years old. We're taking a road trip. The Romero family's taking a road trip from where I was born and raised, where we lived at, the city of San Fernando, California. That's one of the 21 mission cities in California. So 1970, taking a road trip. My three brothers, my one sister. We're in a 1966 Chevy Impala. Okay. The trunk is full of luggage. We even tied all kinds of luggage to the roof with twine, and we're driving over to my mom and dad's pueblo where they were born. My mom and dad wanted to show us where they were born and raised, where they met. Okay, so it's a 3-day drive. My dad's driving about 12 hours a day. We're excited, road trip. You know, I mean, 4 of us were in the back seat. My mom had my baby brother in her arms, and you know, we're talking and stuff, and we're just having a good time. So we're on our 3rd day. We're pretty close now. We're probably about 3 hours away from their little town called Puruandiro, which is deep in Mexico. It's next to Mexico City. All of a sudden, my brother Javier, he's a little bit older than me, about 1.5 years older. He becomes real ill from food poisoning. He's got Montezuma's revenge. Okay, he can't keep anything in. It's coming out of both ends. Okay, something, either the water or the food didn't sit well. And so he's shaking like a leaf in the back. He's all pale. My mom's worried, and she's telling my dad, she says, honey, we got to stop and take him to the hospital immediately. He's going to die. My dad says, I don't know where we're at right now. Okay, I don't know. We're in the desert. I don't know where we're at. Remember, pre-cell phones, pre-GPS, none of that stuff. And I overheard my dad, he told my mom that he didn't want to stop here in the desert in Michoacan. He goes, I don't know where we're at, A. B., he says there's a lot of robbers here. There's a lot of criminals and a lot of thugs in the deserts of Michoacan, and they prey on non-locals. They prey on tourists, okay? And in fact, my dad had just gassed up about 3 hours before, and they told him, don't stop from here to your pueblo in Puruan. Don't stop. There's a lot of bad people in between here and your pueblo, Purandiro. So my dad is saying, we're not going to stop, and we're just going to trust. We're going to trust in God. Well, all of a sudden, my dad, as we're driving, he goes over these railroad tracks, and the 1966 Impala, which is about 4 inches off the ground, it gets stuck on the railroad tracks. Stuck completely. And my dad gets off the car. He's trying to look under. He sees this thing is, he tells us all get off the car. We're all pushing, trying to dislodge it, nothing. My dad grabs a flashlight. He tells my mom, he says, take the kids about 100 feet away. Okay, I'm going to go stop the train. I'm saying, stop the train? I'm 9 years old, okay? I know a man can't stop a train. What is this? So my mom takes us, and we walk about 100 feet away from the car. My dad starts running down the railroad tracks with a flashlight. We could see a train about 2 miles away. We could see the big lights, and we could see the horn blowing. Now, the 5 of us went with my mom about 100 feet from the car, and my mom takes out a rosary and she starts praying, okay? She's looking up. All 5, we're literally holding onto her dress, and we're praying in Spanish. Dios te salve Maria, we're praying. I'm looking at my dad's running, and he's yelling in Spanish, stop the train, stop my car, my family, stop the train. Now, I'm looking around us as we're praying, and I could see these beady eyeballs of these dogs, like probably about 50 yards around us, probably about a dozen dogs around us. And I'm looking and I'm saying, wow, there's a lot of dogs out in the desert. My sister, who was the oldest, she said, they're not dogs, they're wolves. So we're in the desert, our car's stuck in the railroad tracks. There's about a dozen wolves surrounding our family, about 50 yards away. We're in cartel country. My dad, I can hear him yelling, stop the train, my car, my family. All of a sudden, as we're praying the rosary, completely helpless, we're just storming heaven with prayer at this point. I know that we're in a dangerous situation. I see the train getting closer, the horns getting louder and louder, and the train lights keep getting bigger and bigger. As they got closer to our car that was stuck on the railroad track, I'm looking at my mom, and we're all praying, Dios te salve María, llena eres de gracia, el Señor es contigo. I can see the hope and the faith in my mom and the trust in God and Our Lady's protection. And all of us were praying. We're praying out of fear, okay? I have imperfect contrition. I'm praying out of fear, okay? I knew that we're in a bad predicament. So the train's about a mile away. All of a sudden, I could see the steel wheels from the train. They start screeching. And there's sparks and there's fire shooting from the steel wheels and the train tracks. And it looked like they put on the brakes. It looked like the train is slowing down. We could see fire coming out of all the wheels. It's about 100 cars. It's got about 6 engines. It's a huge train. So the train is screeching. And we're praying and watching it slow down. My dad's running alongside it. Stop, my family, stop the train, my car. The car comes to a complete halt less than a foot from my dad's Chevy Impala. We're looking up at the train. It's a steel monster with 100 cars. It stops less than a foot from the car. About 6 engineers jumped out of the train, bunch of young guys, and they got off the train, and they said, you're in Spanish. They're saying, you're lucky. They told my dad. We never stopped the train. The guy said, I've been driving this train for 20 years. I've plowed through 50 cars. He says, we have a policy not to stop the train because the cartels put the cars on the train track to stop the train. Then they come to rob us. So there's a policy that we barrel through the trains. We don't through the cars. We don't stop them. But the main engineer told my dad and my mom, we're all listening. He says, I don't know why I did this. I've been doing this for 20 years. I never stopped the train, but something moved me in my heart to make an exception this one time and to stop the train.
Wow.
And so our car was spared destruction because something moved in this guy's heart who's never stopped the train in 20 years. He admits he's plowed through 50 cars, splits them in half, they explode, but something in his heart moved him to stop it for this one instance alone. Because again, this area is just replete with gang members and with thugs and with bad people in the desert. So these 6 young guys, my dad got on the car, and between them and my dad, they're able to get the car over the railroad tracks. We jumped back in. We headed towards Puruandiro. And I remember my mom says, now we're going to pray a prayer of thanksgiving. And I can tell you, I'm 9 years old. That was my first experience with the Rosary or the power of the Rosary, where I said, you know what? This is Mary who's alive and well and listens to her sons and daughters and has the power to move in our lives and show herself a mother to us. So one